Al Jazeera reported on Tuesday that it obtained leaked cables showing a number of foreign requests to South African intelligence for the spying on activists, NGOs, and politicians. According to Al Jazeera, one document shows South Korea sought out a specific security assessment of Kumi Naidoo in the run-up to a meeting of G20 leaders in Seoul in 2010. Kumi, welcome to Democracy Now! Can you talk about these revelations that have just come out?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us. We were contacted late last year with the information that Al Jazeera had some surveillance intelligence that they had picked up. And essentially, this was in 2010, when I was planning to go to the G20, when this request was made. This was also at a time when the South Korean government was at the G20 pushing its nuclear technology on South Africa, India, Turkey, and so on. So obviously this is quite a big story here in South Africa, and I'm in South Africa at the moment, and you know, we make an assumption, right, that there are surveillance. We've got many cases where companies have actually spied on us and have paid damages to us or apologized publicly and so on. This is the first time we have sort of evidence, while especially since the Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks information has come out, you would be naive not to anticipate that governments might be doing this. But, you know, it's one thing sort of knowing that governments might be doing that. It's another thing having it confirmed by looking at these cables and so on. But the bottom line is, you know, Mahatma Gandhi once said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. They're not ignoring us, they're not laughing at us, they're fighting us really, really hard, not, you know, just this case, but in India and elsewhere. And we are also going to take some comfort at the fact that our campaigning in the broader environmental movement, and by the way, this is not just Greenpeace that is impacted, but other environmental groups as well as other civil society groups. And I would urge us to take some comfort to say that we are winning the argument. Those who are holding us back are getting desperate, and I would see this as more an act of desperation rather than an act of strength on the part of the governments in question.
And Kumi, what's been the reaction of the South African government to the revelations? How they justified or attempted to defend their actions?
Well, the request was made by South Korean intelligence, and there are cases in the full so-called spy cables where there's requests made and where the South African government has, in some cases, gone back with regard to, for example, a Cameroonian opposition leader when requested by Cameroonian intelligence to say, to give information about his activities while he was visiting in South Africa. The South African government said, we have noted your request, but we do not believe there's a need to actually respond because there's no justification for it. Now, what's missing from that cables package is a equal thing with regard to this request regarding whether I'm dangerous or not. You know, that was how it was put, that, you know, they considered me dangerous. So the South African government needs to answer the question whether they shared any information. They need to either confirm or deny that. And they need to also, if they confirm that, then, you know, obviously we will push hard to find out exactly what information was actually shared. But right now, I'm consulting with a public interest litigation NGO in South Africa, which has been around since the anti-apartheid struggle, called the Legal Resources Center. And I'm doing a press conference to the South African media tomorrow morning, South African time, where I will outline what course of action Greenpeace and myself are planning to take.
Kumi, where are we speaking to in South Africa? Are you in Durban, or should I just ask South African intelligence?
Uh, yeah, they know. I'm in Johannesburg at the moment.
You're in Johannesburg. I was interested because, of course, I saw you in, well, at all the UN climate summits. Well, not the last, but certainly in Durban, South Africa. And we in the United States right now are experiencing, to say the least, extreme weather. The weather centers on television used to be called weather centers, you know, where the meteorologists stood. Now it's extreme weather center or severe weather center. The South has never experienced this kind of cold and snow. The Northeast, the freezing temperatures, droughts in California. As we wrap up, and you heard we were speaking to Kurt Davies as well about the American Petroleum Institute and other corporations funding Dr. Soon, the climate denier. Your thoughts on this backdrop of what's happening in the world today around climate change?
Well, most of our political and business leaders have now been pushed into a corner where they have had to acknowledge the science, acknowledge the fact that we have to change, and are saying in broad terms the right thing. That we have to cut down emissions, we have to transition to a clean economy, and so on. Where there is a fundamental gap between what we are saying in the environmental movement and what governments are saying is that the pace of change is sort of based on their own realities with more business as usual approach, and our political and business leaders have to understand we cannot change the science. We can only change political will. And that the longer we delay, the more we drag our feet, the consequences in terms of the loss of human life, loss of infrastructure, economic impact, and so on, are all going to be negative. And what we are saying to the South African government, to governments around the world, is turn the crisis of climate change into an opportunity. Because in South Africa right now, there's an electricity crisis. There's an ultra-dependency on coal and to a lesser extent nuclear. And our government has the capability of actually revolutionizing our energy supply by harnessing the fact that solar has unlimited potential, wind potential, other renewable energy potentials. And if we did it smart, in South Africa and elsewhere in the world, we can have a double win. We can have a win for the economy because various studies show the job creation potential of a serious energy revolution from dirty, brown, fossil fuel-based driven economy to clean, green, renewable-based energy could, if done smartly and thoughtfully and strategically, could give us a jobs bonanza.
Kumi Naidoo.
So we are very clear that it is the interests of the current oil, coal, and gas companies, which actually own many of our governments, that are holding us back.
Kumi, thanks so much for being with us. Kumi Naidoo, Executive Director of Greenpeace International, speaking to us via Democracy Now! Video stream from Johannesburg, South Africa. And thanks to Kurt Davies, Executive Director of the Climate Investigations Center, formerly also with Greenpeace. This is Democracy